I have run out of space at the freight depot. Every time that I try to run a different train, I have to, come in with the re-rail tool and then re-rail the cars onto the track, and it is kind of a nightmare. So what I want to do today is I want to bring my entire train all the way over to the machine shop, because there is a lot of space here that we can use to build a yard, and it's kind of central between the sandbar farm brickworks expansion and the bauxite mine, food factory, forest camp, and the old freight depot fishery logging camp setup. So what I need to do now is make a consist and then just run all of these cars over there. One of the good things is that the building's train works actually takes over spawning cars, so the only reason we'll need to use the freight depot now is just to sell endpoint products like rum and sand and stuff like that. So we can just bring this setup over to the machine shop where the new yard will be. So we just need to make ourselves a consist, and the I don't like doing it like this, but the easiest way is just to re-rail all of the cars onto the track and then shove them all together. Something really weird in this game specifically that I don't know why it happens, but the turning control and the moving left-right does not behave like it normally does in most Roblox games, and I don't know why that is, except for potentially the extraordinarily low gravity, and I do not know why the player has extraordinarily low gravity in this. One slight concern that I have is that the locomotive will not be able to pull this entire consist, especially considering we do have some gradients, but I did try at least to keep them kind of lowish, so we shouldn't be struggling too much. Something small that I wish was in the game was in maybe even if it's just in the shop, just somewhere that is not the leader stats thing that would show you how much money you have, because currently the only place at least that I know of that you can see your current money is in that leaderboard, which is fine, but it's slightly annoying having to look all the way up at the player list just to figure out how much money I have. And if there's some little number in right next to the bar at the bottom that said settings, build, shop, map, etc., that just had your cash, or even just whilst you're in the shop, which is kind of, except for picking up freight, I guess, the only place where you spend much cash at a time. Also, something fun is that after the last video that I posted, where I complained about not having sprint, a week later, or even less, there was suddenly sprint added to the game, which was pretty funny. Right, so these are all the cars except for these 6, which I will now need to couple up to. Something that's always fun is I do play a lot of other train games on Steam and on Roblox, and every single one has a slightly different way of controlling the reverse of the throttle and the brakes, and also the whistle, so it's always very fun just going between them after not playing one for a while, and then just using the wrong muscle memory in a game. Something that's kind of fun is after I come back from playing Railroader, I tend to want to oil up all of the wheels, because in Railroader they added a mechanic where you need to oil the wheels, otherwise you have a risk of getting hot boxes after running for a while. So I'm always topping up the oil on the wheels in Railroader, so when I go to other train games, my first instinct is to try and oil up the wheels. As long as that auto-coupled, we should now have our complete full concept. Oh, it is struggling to pull this. I'm going to try to shove a bunch more coal in the hole. Just pull the throttle down a little bit to stop wheel slip, because that's probably the biggest thing right now, is the wheel slipping. There is a downhill, but then we immediately go into an uphill, so I want to try and keep as much momentum as we can. And actually, I'm just going to drop a quick save, because if we derail, because there's currently our entire consist of cars, I don't feel like constantly re-railing that if we derail, so I'm just going to have that save ready for E4 when we derail so that I can just reload it quickly, as opposed to having to manually go through and just re-railing every single car. Actually, we're picking up some good speed now, so that you can have the reverser in a more efficient position to run in. So something that is quite fun in this game that kind of makes other games feel a bit empty is the fact that the valve gear is fully simulated in there. And when I play games like Streamlined, it's always kind of funny because the valve gear in that is very minimal or completely wrong. So it's always fun to just see how other games try to visually make something that looks right, whereas this actually has the valve gear. We are using a lot of coal for this. Can we handle? I don't think we can handle with the reverse being back. Something that's always fun is you can apply more power at low speeds, but you're going at a low speed and you want to get to your location within a certain amount of time, so you try to go a bit faster, but then you're applying less power to the train, which isn't always helpful when you have this very, very long consist. How steep is this tunnel? I remember this being kind of steepish. This could be quite difficult to get through. Is this the right amount of throttle and reverser? I do not know. I don't think so. Oh, we're making it quite well, actually. And put a bit more coal in the hole to see if we can build up a bit more Kesseltag. Because if we have... I think that might be... It's not marked on the dial, because normally you'd have like a marking to say where the safety valve pops, but we are probably, we're at the point where the safety's popping there. I'm hearing indications that the wheel could be slipping right now, which is slightly annoying, but we've mostly made it through the tunnel. It's like 2 cars left inside the tunnel. We're struggling though. I drop the reverser slightly to see if that helps anything at all in the slightest, and it does not seem to be. Okay, we should have a mostly flat section now, so I can just leave this a bit like this and just go into the shop. Something I was considering getting is more powerful locomotives, because on some of the other saves I've done, I've got lots of locomotives, whereas on this save we still only have the starting locomotive. And one of the locomotives I do quite like is, one of them's this one, which, not the J1, the J2's looks nicer, kind of. The H is quite cool, but also the P class, it's got quite a good amount of power. Not bad amount of coal, considering it's a tank engine, and it goes very fast as well, so you can get places. That one has 51 speed, and the locomotive that this one is, but without the tank going across the top, might even be a D1. Hang on, I think I've forgotten the locomotive it is, but it's similar in appearance to this one, which has like 24 speed. This may look fast right now, considering how slow we were just going earlier, but it's not a fast locomotive compared to some of the other ones. And accidentally, we have just blown past the bauxite mine, and we are here at the machine shop. And I'm thinking I might want to redo most of these tracks, except for maybe the inbound tracks, even though these could probably do with some slight alterations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the train on the line right next to the industry platform, so that I can just modify every single other track until we get the yard in place. Then once we get the yard in place, we'll have a proper place to store all these cars and like stage things in and out. One thing that I'm contemplating having is whether to have like stop tracks or like a track that you can run around the entire thing in, so that you can get to either end of your consist and run out. But that is something to be decided. Right, we are here, so please stop. Oh, okay, we're already on this spline anyway, so right. I do want to change, like, the layout of this yard quite, like, the current yard here quite significantly, but yeah, the train being here kind of actually is quite inconvenient, so I'm going to shove it onto that curve there, which I'm probably not going to touch. And then we can modify the entire existing machine shop yard and then turn it into a yard. There is a slight crack in the model here, and I don't know if that's intentional or not. It doesn't look intentional. It might be intentional. Actually, yeah, considering there's brackets here, it probably might be intentional. But that's slightly mildly mentally annoying. The tiny little crack in the model there. We are going way too fast for just wanting to stop right before the farm. I have a feeling this train might not stop even though I've applied full brakes, considering I don't realise how steep this slope was. So if I click there, it's a 3.5%, but it looks way steeper than 3.5% for some reason. Alright, so actually, is that train clear of... is the train clear of... Oh, just barely it is. Alright, so we're going to delete all of that, all of this yard. Then we're going to turn all of this flat space into our primary area. Leave those two tracks just because we absolutely must have them for unloading and loading trains. Curve on, grade on, and then we're going to go outwards. We do not need such a long yard that we had last time, so we're just going to put it out like this. Place a switch. And then... Actually, yeah, we'll place a switch like that. Actually, never mind. We'll place it straight so that you can just run through quite quickly. Like one thing that I try to keep whenever I make the yards is that you can run through the main input going quite quickly, because once you get fast trains, the trains take a little while to brake because there's no air brakes or anything. So try to keep everything nice and gentle. So if we set the curve to 200, what does that look like? That actually looks a bit too steep for my taste. Let's go 350. Yeah, that's much better. Is that, however, going to clip? Probably. I'm just going to check, because we need to connect to this. Okay, it's 0.1%, so we don't need to bother with modifying the gradient. So we can build out to there. Track objects, we can build the switch into the yard, and then we're going to set the track type to the ballast embankment, just because it does look slightly dipped down there. Yeah. Did I build it? I built this all in one go. If I had built this in multiple passes, I would have set it to something that isn't trestle spline. So right, and then so this is currently how the yard is. So what we now need is probably, if we go negative 750, that looks probably okay. You can then place this switch, and then how does this... I don't particularly like that, so if we just set it to 500, nope, 300, actually, yeah, that looks fine. That is very far off the ground right there, so that's 7.5%. It's very steep gradients. What about this gradient? That is -3.5, so let's do -3.6 just in case. We could bring that around there. And then, yeah, that'll be fine there. So we have the input track from the farm. And this isn't floating, which is good. And I'm aware that I'm pretty sure I built that out of the 15-foot ballast, which is not always the greatest decision. So now we have the 2 inputs to our yard. I think maybe the first bit, right, we should... Something I wish you could do is customize the side that the switch stand is on, because currently, if you don't want the switch stand to intersect your existing track, you have to build out a little stub and then do this, because if I build it here, like if I build the track here, it kind of clips with the other sleepers, which doesn't look good, so we have to build out a little stub. I think to the left, let's just bring this a shot, 200. I think this way we can build all of the engine works and stuff like that, so track objects, let's just do a switch right. And let's... Oh, didn't mean to build that. So the one slight pain of this game is occasionally it just decides to delete the wrong objects. Alright, so let's build this track outwards. I think here we can do switch right, and then we're going to do... Actually, slightly earlier, we delete... Oh. Delete mode on, track objects, we're also going to have another switch right here. Connect you 2 up, and then buildings, train works, right. Okay, that's slightly annoying, so let's actually bring this back. Let's go for the slightly shorter switch, and then build mode on, let's connect you up, and then let's connect you up, and then we have our new industry. So let's actually head back to the freight depot, and then we can destroy the old stuff, which will hopefully give us more money for us to work with. Yeah, that instantly brought us back up. I'm going to leave the coaling tower, just because having a coaling tower is kind of useful still. And then at the freight depot we are just going to build a nice straight stub for storing stuff occasionally. But if we go to the shop menu, now all of the cars that we buy default to this industry, right? That's nice. And then we can go -500, I think. Yeah, that looks good. And then we can go buildings, single engine shed just for customization, and then scrapyard. And then we're going to plot the scrapyard here. And now we have all of our important industry set up. But something I do kind of want to do is have a roundhouse. But kind of slightly expensive for now, but it's a useful place to store locomotives, so let's do a curve of 500. So something that I don't like about this turntable is that you have to click it each time you want it to move a stop. And I don't know if I can insert in editing a clip from other games, but other games on Roblox, you have floating spheres that appear above the turntable when you stand on it. And when you click it, you can tell it exactly the stop that you want to go. And I've seen the system that they teased for Century of Steam, where they essentially you click the turntable and you click the track, which is similar in concept to that system, but both those systems are way better ways to do turntables, right? How far around can we have this roundhouse before it clips into... Okay, so it's there. Roundhouse building roundhouse building. I'm just keeping an eye on the cash, and thankfully it's not going down too much. And if it doesn't get too low by the end of this recording, then I will be buying some more cars for us to run with. And maybe potentially at the end of this episode, and theoretically also at the start of the next episode, I could be running some trains on the Discord server, which should be automatically linked in the description. Right, so let's build ourselves a roundhouse wall and a roundhouse wall. And I have a slight issue with the roundhouse, which is that it doesn't carve out enough terrain below it, which means that you get grass poking out through the floor of the roundhouse. And I don't know if there's a way besides maybe just carving the ground further to get rid of the grass in Roblox, but it would be nice to see the grass gone, because it's kind of ugly looking. And I have in previous saves tried to use the industrial track with no rails to cover up the grass, but that tends to stop either the turntable or the engines running into the shed, which means that it's not a good permanent solution for that. I mean, the regular track, but not the track in the industry buildings, seems to clear out the grass perfectly fine. So I don't know what the limitations are, but it'd be nice to see that gone from the roundhouse too. It's kind of weird having this offset roundhouse, because I have another roundhouse which I currently use my computer desktop image from another save that the turntable actually is in line, and it's quite nice looking this way at all the engines in the shed. I'm going to call it the shed pretty often, because that's essentially where we normally store engines and tools and other useful things. So shed's just going to be the term that I default to. Oh, there's a mineral load. Sorry, I've just not seen some of these before. So these must be like expansions to the existing shops and stuff. Right, so now what we need, because we have all the engine facilities and the buying area, is a really big yard for all the cars. So what I'm thinking is we build out this much. Oh, wrong track type. Something that Railroads Online does, and I don't play that game much anymore, because it just don't like it as much as I used to, but something that it does do now is it tells you how long the piece that you're placing is, and it would be nice to at least get a reference for how long the piece is that we're placing. Right, so we're gonna build like this, and I have no idea whether using this switch is a good idea, because normally I use the big switch, which might let us pack more in, but whatever. It doesn't matter too much because you're not going quickly through the yards, so. Oh, right, track delete mode on. I'm just going to check how many different types of cars. There's stake wagon, hopper wagon, flat wagon, so that's 3, that's 4. There's technically, actually, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably 8, but I'll go for like 10 or 15 or 6. Actually, 16 is double 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, considering how much space we have, 8 here makes probably more sense. And what we're actually going to do for the final piece is that, and then you get the exact same curve as the rest of the points. And actually, to be honest, we could probably fit one that goes left slightly. Or if we just brought it further back, we would probably have space for more. But what we now need to do is essentially just the opposite side of this yard. So, and because of the current boundary restraints, I'm thinking we might have to curve it. So let's put in 400, see how that seems. That's too sharp, actually. So let's do 650. Complete guess, but that looks better. So 6, actually, what about 750? Yeah, I think that's even better still, 750, so let's do... Ooh. Okay, I haven't accounted for how that will affect the other yards. Because that also means that at this end we now have to have some more... And also over here it does kind of not look great, which is always fun. Something that I wish would happen is, whilst you're building an appliance and you switch to delete mode, you can still, like, shadow building the appliance. So I kind of wish it would automatically deselect it before enabling build mode. So I have no idea how far out this is, but this seems like a sensible length. However, actually, I should probably have done it from this one, because this is going to be the starting switch into the entire yard, which does mean that I need to delete this spline and then bring that switch backwards. So that's where we're going to align it with, I believe, and then if we keep going this way... Oh, nope. We should eventually intersect with this piece of track here. It's slightly off, which is slightly annoying. What about if I build out from that switch? Is it off still? Kind of, but it's not enough to... It's not enough to throw up a fuss about, so let's just... Actually, we can just sort of like build almost to this, delete this, and then do that. And then for the rest of the tracks, we can just and now we have one completed. Oh no, apparently not. And then we now have one completed yard. And I am thinking like we could probably use that space there, but for now we need to connect it up to the main line, and this currently will not do, so I'm going to bring this back to here. Track objects, let's build this switch, and then let's connect that up. That looks a lot better. So this is track type. Let's go for the full, really big ballast embankment. And this yard kind of looks a bit short, but it shouldn't matter too much. I mean, if we need more space for more cars later, then I can of course expand it, but for now this should be fine enough. And also we have a bunch of space over here that we can also expand into if necessary. But for now, I do think that is reasonable for the yard that we need done. Although I do wonder if we could actually, that'd be really sharp to have a way to go the other way around from the engine stuff. And there's a turntable there anyway, so it shouldn't matter. Actually, I kind of want to have a dedicated runaround track, because currently seems like you'd have to either leave blank the 8th or the 1st track right now, so track objects, boop, and then boop, and then we get to go minus 500, how's that? Okay, that's too sharp. Minus 650, how's that look? That's a little bit too loose, so minus 600. Yeah, that's good enough. And then we can go back to having no curve, and then we can go in there, and then we can use that as the engine run around if necessary. So yeah, I think so far this yard's looking quite good, and it will be very useful in future, but I'm also looking at all of this space and then thinking, what could we use this for? And there probably will actually be some types of loads that will be just inherently need longer trains to run on, so I'm thinking potentially we could use that as the yard to run really long trains with. So if we build out like that, it runs into the track. So if we go 500 as a curve and then do there, maybe, yeah, that gives us a nice long shot. We can just then curve there, curve it back again because there's space, build a little long thing. Over to demolish, and then track, build on, and then we have this side of a yard, and then we can track objects, switch, and then left, and then pull it back right, and then right again, and then right again. And then, yeah, once more, so let's have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do that. Track, delete, build, click, and then delete. And then, whoop, right up to there, and then this track should be the longest track of them all, so let's do that. And then it's curved in, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should probably be enough. Let's just start connecting these tracks up. Now once again doing it as a bowyard just so that we can connect all the engines up from whichever end is most useful to connect the engines up to. And then, actually, do need one more switch there, and then we can connect you up. That looks kind of bad, having it like that. So let's track objects, switch right, connect you up, track, delete mode, build mode, boom. So both of these parallelograms, kind of, except for those two tracks there, just so that we can have an equal amount of storage space for each side. And then, actually out this bit, I just realised I built that entire yard, which is on perfectly flat and level ground with 15-foot ballast embankments, which is kind of expensive and kind of a pointless thing to do, so I'm going to actually, for all of the straight tracks that we can easily replace, I'm just going to delete them and replace them with a regular embankment. Yep. And then we have more engine storage space, like a wagon storage space. And the thing with this yard is it just stops with a stub there, whereas this yard is on the main, and that is completely fine. It shouldn't really affect too much, although maybe, thinking about this, maybe we could have a switch coming off there. Let's set this back to embankment. Also, something that some people might not have known is if you click on these buttons it cycles backwards, and if you right click cycles backwards and left click cycles forwards. So if I do this, ooh, that is a reasonable curve. So let's actually track. Let's go into delete mode. Let's go back into build mode. Let's use the long ballast. Then, yeah. So now we have an entry and exit on either side of this yard as well. So it's just this space which doesn't exist. Something that I still wish was in the game was an ability to plant trees, because currently we can cut trees, and something I didn't realise that happens is sometimes if a tree falls on a log car, it will spawn a log and delete the tree. But we still have no ability to summon trees, which is kind of sad, because once you cut a tree down, it's now permanently gone. And we have this big blank area, and I would kind of like to fill it with trees now. Or if I built the boatyards first, I probably would have put the engines inside of this area. Which actually makes me think, potentially, if we get more engines, then we would probably want to have a second roundhouse in this area, but it could be a project for the future. Currently we have 14,000. What cars do we have, right? To be honest, I kind of, just to make it look nicer, I kind of want the second one of the hopper wagons. Not this hopper wagon. Yeah, this hopper wagon. I kind of want a second one of these, but ooh. Okay, so apparently the ending of the video deleted, but all you missed was placing the coaling tower, getting all of these cars into place, and then buying this brake wagon so I can run with other people and have them inside the train. Anyways, goodbye.